Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ballin with Bill Dannenhauer, and a very special guest here. I've known Coach a while. He's a gentleman and a scholar and runs a great program out there at Elkhorn South, Guy Rosenburg. Great to have you,
Bill,
Coach.
thanks a lot for having me on. This is outstanding. It's fun to be here.
It's good to have you on, Coach. You've done a great job. Okay, I'm going to start from the beginning. You grew up a little bit in Nebraska, then you
Right.
moved over to Iowa. Where'd you play high school football at?
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting too that I've always been kind of the guy from the other side of the river, like that. Lived in Nebraska, lived in Peru, Nebraska. My dad used to be dean of students at Peru State College, and spent
cool.
got strong roots here in Nebraska and lived there until fifth grade. Then went over to Iowa City, and that's where I went to high school at West High in Iowa City. And had a great time over there. Really enjoyed being in Iowa City. It was right around the time that Hayden Fry came on board. I think 1978, and I graduated from high school in 1985. So I got a chance to be there and see a lot of the Coach Fry building a program. And he's somebody that I've always admired. Just kind of the bravado that he had, and being willing to call a trick play and willing to make plays when the money's on the table. So enjoyed being there in Iowa City, and like I said, it's always where I've been the guy from the other side of the river. So when I did some coaching up in Okoboji, up in northwest Iowa, and then I was fortunate to get over to Lincoln with John Farrand and being an assistant at Lincoln High, and actually Mark Waller, who's on our staff now, that was the long-term head coach at Lincoln North Star, and is doing a great job for us this year. We worked together there for John Farrand at Lincoln High, and then I was at Lincoln East with John Gingery, Mike Janish, and Ryan Fitzgerald and those guys, but then when we kind of started doing some new stuff on offense at East, people were like, well, where'd this come from? Well, it's some guy from Iowa. Well, then later on when then kind of when I with some other jobs I'd always kind of hop across the river that, was been went over to Des Moines, and was who's this guy? Who they get? Or they got some guy from Nebraska. So it's always been the guy from the other side of the river, but always been in either Iowa or Nebraska.
Very cool. Now did you play at Cornell? I know you went to Cornell.
Yeah.
What'd you play there for?
I didn't play very well, but
Cornell's a fine institute.
Yeah,
Very academically.
I really enjoyed going to school there, and it's being from Iowa City, it was nice that it was about 30 minutes from Iowa City, and so it was right. So it was far enough away that I could be on my own, but it was close enough that home was always just right down the road there, and Jerry Clark was the head coach.
Jerry was
went
head
there.
coach.
Yep.
Okay.
And so really enjoyed my time there at Cornell College, and interesting in terms of it has one course at a time, and not many people. Colorado College, so that you take one class for 3.5 weeks, and then you're done with that class and you move on, and that was over the course that you did that 9 times per year, and I think Colorado College is the only other place in the nation.
I remember when we recruited against you guys. I was at Dana. That program in Iowa. That was the big thing they tried to really sell. They do one course at a time. I forgot all about that.
Right. So that was a different approach, and I enjoyed it. And it's a beautiful campus. It's I think on the National Register of Historic Places.
It is.
And Ashfield, and it's a beautiful facility there, and so. It was definitely a good time, and got a lot of lifetime friends from being there.
Yeah. What position did you play?
I was defensive back. I was corner and safety.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So are you still a defensive person?
Well, that ended up being actually that when I first started coaching, that I was, I guess a lot of times you coach what you know and understand the best, and so I started off coaching defensive backs. That was where I was most comfortable.
I started going line when I started coaching.
As things went along, then I gravitated more toward the offensive side of the ball, and now. I'm a real big believer, to trust people and delegate, and whether it was with Sam Stanley, our defensive coordinator, that's now the head coach at Elkhorn North. This year, James Kerwin's our defensive coordinator, and I'm a big believer in that let guys coach. And now I don't stick my nose there in the defensive business that much. There, let those guys get a chance to coach and teach, and kind of gravitated more over to the offensive side of the ball.
Have you? Okay. So now I know. Your first head coaching job was where now again, Coach?
Okoboji. It's Okoboji up in northwest Iowa, and
that's a nice place to live, except for the winter.
I was going to say it was a thing that I remember one time when I was there that had Iowa State's strength coach come up. I think it was Matt McGettigan was the guy's name.
I remember Matt.
Outstanding coach, and he came up there and had him talk to our kids, and he was up there with his wife, and I remember that kind of showed him around town, and they're like, "Wow, I don't know why you would ever want to leave this place." So it was beautiful, great during the summer. Being a single guy up there in the winter sometimes was pretty cold and
far from Minnesota, so you can get nailed.
But that up there actually at winter games that are up in Okoboji, that's where I met my wife Reagan. So that was a great place to be at there too. And Okoboji was a place that had traditionally struggled with football, and I think that that's why that I probably got the job there. For as far as at the time, that I don't think it was a job that a lot of people wanted. But I it was a tough sled, but I learned a lot there, and I think that was where I really found out that coaching football was what I was really passionate about and really wanted to dedicate my life to from a professional standpoint. So I was head coach there at Okoboji there for 3 years, and going into my first game there, we had a 21 game losing streak, and we won the first game, which was a great night, memorable victory. And then I think we lost the next 8 for the season on there. But again, really,
you broke the curse.
And so it's a thing. Still go back up there during the summer, and great people there, and have a it's interesting now being up there with a number of years that have passed of being out and getting something to eat and getting a chance to run into former players there like Adam Craninger, Matt Berryhill, Ben Umscheid, guys that I coached way back when, and now that they're guys that have got careers and families, and so it's real rewarding to see them being so successful.
All right, good. Here I got a question I always want to ask my coaches. You've been a head coach now at 3 places, correct? Mm-hmm. What do you, when you first go in, what part of you do you still to be the foundation of your program now that you've done it 3 times? And with success, great success here at Elkhorn
I think it's just that culture standpoint of finding good people and trusting them and delegating to them because I think that when people have ownership, that they really invest, and I think that I've been extremely fortunate, particularly during my time at Elkhorn South, with having guys on the staff like George Drennan Sr., Lauren McFadden, guys that are veteran coaches. Got guys on there now like Tom Mueller, Mark Waller. Guys like that are veterans. Brian Vance, who's a outstanding teacher and had been our freshman coach for a number of years. So I think
that's important in your program. That freshman is a big key,
and it's a thing that now we have that Coach Vance is our JV head coach now, and Logan Pavin is doing a great job with our freshmen. And so I'm real big believer that you win with reliable people, and you need to have chemistry within your staff. I think it can't be a offense defense split. Players can tell whether you've got that. It's got to be everybody all rowing the same direction, and I think that was. We've got that going now, and I think that for during the time my first 8 years at South there, Sam Stanley was our defensive coordinator, Jacob Rapp, Seth Krivolovic, just got outstanding coaches there. So I think that that's a key thing of finding good, reliable, skilled people, trust them, turn them loose, and I think on there that when you have those type of leaders within your team as coaches, that the players see that and realize that to be successful, it's got to be about the team, that people have to be willing to put aside their personal goals for the team goals. And again, that everybody has to be rowing the same direction. But I think that's the biggest thing, that you win. I think I stole it from Woody Hayes, but you win with reliable people. And I really believe that. So I think that reliability and accountability is huge, because everything stems from that. And I tell our players too that in your life, you got a lot more people that you love than you trust. To me, the ultimate compliment is to be trusted. I think everybody's got people in their life where they're like, well, yeah, I love the guy, but, and what comes after that but is important. It's one of those things when there's that unconditional trust that you got within your team, I think that you're going to be very successful. And I think that that's just really kind of sell things to our players of, hey, that we're offering something that money can't buy, connections can't buy. I think there's plenty of things in life that people can get through connections, or people can get through money. A championship ring, a positive football experience isn't one of them. So I think that that's the thing of to me, that's the ultimate for players and for coaches, is when you feel like you're a part of something bigger than yourself, working in unison, working unselfishly together. I think that that's what people miss when they're away from the game, and I think that that's what keeps people always chasing and wanting to be a part of it, because that's something you really can't get anyplace else, I don't think.
That's a good point. I mean, I and sometimes that's what's, when I had it as a Dan, that was always a hard time to have good people, because you didn't. Right. It was hard to get enough good people. You had a lot of success doing that Elkhorn, I think, because of your situation there. It's been very helpful to and quality people there like George, because he worked for me at Dana after we left Northwest, and he did a great job. But I just didn't have enough of them a lot of times.
And I think it's a thing too, just of continuing to put layers of paint on things and building the organization that. We have an outstanding football boosters club that Kerry Jorce, our president, this year.
Yeah, nice backing.
And I think that on there, that just when you got administrative support, like from starting at the top with Barry Haybrock, the superintendent, Mark Calvoda, our principal,
Yeah.
Roger Ortmeyer, our AD. I think on there,
Ort's a good guy.
you got to have that you got to have that alignment. I know that's
Right.
one of the terms that I heard Urban Meyer use. He said you've got to have alignment within your organization, and so I think that that academics are extremely important in Elkhorn, but athletics are too, and I think that starts at the top with Dr. Haybrock. And then again, you've got to have that support from your principal. You got to have that support from
administration.
Got to have
too.
that support from your your AD and everybody there. And I think when everybody's all got the same mindset and that same alignment, you can get your coaches in that alignment. You got your players in that alignment, and we're a real big believer in too. And building a program, not a team. So, you talked about mentioning earlier how important freshman football is, because I think that's where the players kind of learn the culture, learn the fundamentals, and the biggest thing is want those guys to have a positive experience and come back and play when they're sophomores. And that's where, first year I was at South, Jacob Rapp did a great job as freshman coach. Brian Vance was the freshman head coach for the last 7 years, and Logan Pabin is doing that now. And I think just that culture standpoint where.
Well, they're the one that put it in for
right, and I think on there that the fundamentals, being part of something bigger than themselves, and I think our players really take pride in. I'm a big believer too. You talked about winning programs. To me, losing programs, it's one of those crap rolls downhill situations where the older kids are like, hey, people harassed me when I was a freshman. Now I'm a senior. I'm going to get mine. We don't have that. We got on there where our older kids look at the kids that come behind them, whether it's youth camp or the freshmen, as being their legacy, and guys that are going to be able to help them. Who knows? Maybe this year, maybe a couple of years down the road. But tell hey, those guys are the future. You got to take care of them. You got to be a servant leader. And one of the things that Coach Vance implemented that's been huge in our program is the Big Brother program, where every freshman kid gets an older kid that's assigned to him, that's his mentor. So he's got somebody that can be a resource for not only football matters, but school matters, off-field matters. And I think that football is such a numbers game that that we really want.
Your numbers have grown every year.
Right, we want to bring kids in and retain them, and I think that that's something too that want kids to have an opportunity to play football and be a part of something bigger than themselves. And I know the different times over the years that we might have rubbed people the wrong way with how many kids that we suit up. We suit up everybody 10 through 12 that's on our team. If they do what's required of them as a player, they get on the bus and ride and suit up on Friday nights. At the end of the season, we call up 12, 15 freshmen. They get a chance again to experience that practice, experience that culture. And I know that there's some people that have been like, well, hey, you can't do that. They don't want to have that many guys suited up for the state championship game. They don't want to have that many guys suited up there. My big thing is, hey, football is education. I want a kid to get an opportunity that, particularly back, when we were going down and playing in Lincoln, you can't talk about, you can't put a price on a kid getting a chance to walk across the podium and there on Memorial Stadium. So we want to get as many kids as we can a chance to have those life-changing opportunities and be a part of something bigger than themselves. So if that rubs some people the wrong way, too bad. We're going to keep doing it.
Hey, it's been successful for you.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, now you had was it 2 years ago you had that back-to-back seasons undefeated and won 2 state championships?
Which was two. It's been a couple now. It was 2015, 2016. Yeah.
And that was a heck of an unbelievable run you had for those 2 years.
Right.
Can you kind of tell what that was like? I mean, not everybody gets to go through 2 undefeated seasons with 2 back-to-back state championships.
That was definitely exciting, and it was actually my son Zane is a sophomore now and is on the team, and my daughter Lexi is in 6th grade. Well, at the time, she was young enough at the time that was going on that she didn't know what it was like when the team lost a football game. For her whole, it was a thing. Hey, you went and played a football game, and then everybody, all the coaches, we got together afterwards and their families, and and celebrated and enjoyed being around each other. And again, just that was, just a real special time. But I think a key thing with it that we talked about, particularly in year 2, is that your biggest enemy ends up being human nature.
Right.
Because I think for different players, sometimes players don't know what it took to build that foundation. Now that first class, I guess would have been class of 2016 that won the state championship, with guys like Tanner Mayo and Shane Henderson that were some of our senior leaders on there. But they were guys that they were all freshmen. Right. They were all freshmen. They were freshmen the first year that we were all together as a staff, and then everything came full circle there. And so those guys really laid the foundation. But I think even more so the senior class before that, Chad Carlos, and I think that those guys, that some of those seniors, that the 2014 season where we were close but not quite there. Cole Butler was another captain there. Those guys, I think, kind of showed what it was about to be the selfless leader, and then the next group was able to take that next step that was there. And we really had some difference makers too. That with Braden Wright, guy that never lost a game as a starting quarterback. Moses Bryant, that up until last year was the all-time TD leader. But I think it's when guys work hard together unselfishly, I think that you can pull a lot of things out of the fire. It's amazing if you just keep playing, how many times you can win games. And big thing, I mean, the players would definitely tell you, I've got all kinds of little sayings and cliches. I'm sure they probably get tired of hearing, but one of them, like I said, if you're going to pull a rabbit out of the hat, you got to put it there ahead of time. So I mean, there's no magic on Friday nights. There's preparation, there's investment, and so I think that those guys really invested and again played as a team in all three phases. And so we had some real close games. That 2015 season, we were able to win it. And I think a key thing on there too, for as far as things about being unselfish, team first. That going for the first half of that season, Conor Ebling was our starting quarterback.
Right.
And he was on pace to be probably an all-state quarterback. Had 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. Hurt his back, and we thought he was done for the season. Well, Braden Wright at that point was our backup. And these guys started down at Northwest Missouri State as a freshman, great competitor and leader. But when he wasn't playing quarterback, he was unselfish. He was out there playing defensive back. He was playing receiver. Well, I still remember when Conor Ebling got hurt, and we were putting some equipment away. I was talking to Braden and said, "Hey, Braden, we just lost an all-state quarterback, but I think I'm looking at another one. I think we got a guy. I think you can go out and keep this thing running." And so Braden took the keys, never lost a game the rest of his high school career. Was back-to-back state champion as a starting quarterback. And I think kind of another piece of the puzzle there, being unselfish, was Conor Ebling, the guy that we thought was done for the season, that he ended up getting treated and getting healthier, and as the playoffs went along, he got cleared to play. I thought it was so unselfish on his part that he could have blown that team up, that was rolling along undefeated. He could have said, "Hey, coach, I thought you couldn't lose your starting spot to injury. I was the starter." But he put aside his individual goals for the team goals. We went and won the state championship that year, and Conor Ebling was the guy that took a knee. He took the final knee for us, and I thought that was really fitting because, again, that's, you talk about being unselfish and being a part of the team, and most guys say that, but when it actually comes down to it, he was a guy that lived it and did put the team first. The next year, we had a lot of those pieces in place and came back and were able to do it again.
That's harder, I think, sometimes the first time.
I think that's
really
the thing.
do.
Like I said, you're kind of fighting against human nature, and then 2017, I think at one point we had 34-game winning streak. Gretna beat us. Gretna did a great job, beat us during the regular season, and then York beat us there in the playoffs. So we had a chance for the three-peat. And again, I know those opportunities are very, very rare. So that's definitely a loss that still stings. And I tip my hat to York. But again, that's one of those ones. Those guys beat us at our own game, and but very, very proud of that group, because particularly that 2017 team, like I said, you're fighting against human instinct. That it's human nature to be satisfied. It's human nature to not be willing to go back.
To keep that hunger. It's hard to keep that hunger going.
Those things, and so I was very proud of leaders that we had on that team, of like Carson Pilkington, Jared Jennings. Moses was a senior that year. Mick Williams. Guys that never acted like they'd arrived.
Right.
I think that those guys, Cade Pilkington, all guys that really put the team first and continued to work hard.
Yeah, that year York had a heck of a team though too.
Yeah, they did an excellent job, and like I said, there wasn't anything fluky about it.
No,
He's
a good coach too.
Yes, sir. They came into our place and beat us, and so hey, we tip our hat to them.
Yeah, I hear you. It's tough, but you're gentle. Yeah. So the big thing I hear about you, Coach, is your practice and how you practice. Can you kind of describe that? Because I mean, to me, being an ex-coach, practice is the most important thing. I mean, it's more important, I think, than sometimes playing the game, because the preparation is what it's all about.
That's where you have the most control over what's going on, because against when you're playing the games, the opponent's got to vote in there and how things go.
You got the officials.
And I just heard one time, they talked about the difference between a surgical operation and a military operation. Is in a surgical operation, the patient's sedated and strapped down, where in a military operation, you're going against people that are trying to break what you're doing. And so I think in practice, that really trying to figure out, hey, what contingencies, what are we going to need on Friday night, in all three phases of the game, preparing kids for situations, having your practice be efficient, where we're not wasting reps in practice on things that we're not going to do on Friday night, so that we can tell our players, hey, we're just going to transfer what we do in practice to Friday night. And I'm a real big believer that, if you're not any good, you're probably not known for something. You don't really have an identity. If you're good, you're going to have an identity. Things people know they need to stop. Things people know they need to deal with. And I think based off that identity, you got what we tell our players. You want to be good at things that happen a lot in the game. If you're good at something that doesn't happen very often, it doesn't really matter. So what? You can do that. If it's just some rare outlier skill, it doesn't help you any. So we want to be good at the things that happen a lot. Want to be situationally aware, and real big believer that reps are the most precious thing we've got. No matter how good a coach anybody is, everybody has the same amount of time.
Yeah.
So how are we going to use that time? We want to maximize our practice time, get as many reps as we can, being a no huddle organization. And then we're real big believers in playing a lot of guys, for rotations, scheduled rotations on both sides of the ball. And that was a guy that I didn't mention that was, real key in our success too at Elkhorn South. That's with Coach Stanley at Elkhorn North now, is Jackson Syme. Coach Syme was a guy that played down at Nebraska Wesleyan, outstanding student of the game, and under took his advice when we kind of gravitated toward these scheduled player rotations, where we divide each half up into essentially 6 series and figure out, hey, how many guys are going to play, how many series out of the 6 is each guy going to play at each position, and then you use that to figure out, well, what guys do we need to get reps on during practice. So you want your guys that are going to be out there on Friday night, getting the right amount of reps, doing the right amount of things, and I think wanting to have built-in answers, built-in constraints, because I think anytime I'm not a draw it up in the dirt guy. One of my big influences, just from a studying the game standpoint, is Bill Walsh. And he's a big believer that the score takes care of itself, and so we want to have all those contingencies
him a lot too.
in place ahead of time, so that
Belichick does that today. Same thing.
Stuff that you make up on game night usually doesn't work. We talk about transferring things from practice. We want to make sure the stuff that we're going to do has to be a contingency that we practice, and we really look at, hey, what do we do well? What are people going to do to stop it? Well, let's have a contingency when they do overreact to stopping something. So, again, really enjoy practice, and I think that's the thing with our players. They really buy into the importance of practice. Like right now, probably one of the best practice players we've ever had is one of our seniors right now, Teddy Prohaska.
He's got a shot. Is he going to
so he's committed to Nebraska. He's been committed since late in his sophomore year.
Let's hope he gets to play.
Well, yeah.
I'm talking about
getting the season back on board there. But he's a guy that, again, everybody and their brother, all the best schools in the nation came through and offered him and recruited him. And he's a guy that, again, really epitomizes our program, because he'd have every reason to believe that he's arrived, every reason to believe that, hey, maybe I've shown what I can do. I really don't need to do things in practice. He's the complete opposite. He loves practicing. He's the same guy every day. And I think that's that culture thing again. When you got your best players that have that attitude, that things really trickle down to other players. Guys we've had too, like Jack Parody. He's playing at Augie now. That one of those guys that again brings it every day for practice. And when your best players do that, I think that the younger guys take notice and realize that they need to step up too. So I think that really helps us maximize practice as well. That player investment.
Super. No, I've seen him play. He's a heck of a player.
Oh yeah.
I think he keeps getting better. He'll be a good Big Ten player.
Yeah. Well, I think he's probably Teddy right now is probably 6'10", carrying 300 pounds. Like that. He
can move
carries
for a
it
big
extremely
kid.
well. He can bend. He can flex, and so that Teddy's one of our captains this year. Makai Nelson Douglas, who's committed to Northern Illinois as an outside linebacker. So both those guys have done an excellent job. Guy Hunt, who's a guy for us that's probably going to be, I think he's academic All-State in 3 different sports. Baseball.
Does he call the plays?
He's a diver. Well, he's definitely like a coach out there on the field.
I bet he is.
And then of course,
the smart kids usually
football,
are.
And then Cooper Taylor, who's also been a 3-year starter for us at right tackle, and a guy that plays a lot of defense too. So those are all guys that have been through the battles, and again, that they show the younger guys what practice is supposed to look like. And I think that having that player buy-in into the importance of practice is just so huge for, because like you said, that's when you have the most control over what you can get done. And if can sell the players on the idea that, hey, you don't need to do something special on game night. All we're doing is playing in a different stadium and turning on the lights. So let's just go out and do what we do. And I think at the biggest moments of the game, to me, the biggest moments of the game is you're going to win with your day one install. I mean, the stuff on there, there's all kinds of great plays out there, but I think that the guys that try to do too much aren't very good, and so we want to have a real tight scatter pattern and try to really execute, particularly at the biggest moments of the game.
So tell us about your season. You're 2-1 right now. You've played all 3 Miller schools.
Mm-hmm.
So how's that been? I mean, you have 3 good games. You
Right.
you've played well.
Well, I think on there was a real testament to our players in terms of, those are 3 just
Solid
outstanding.
programs.
Talking about, right, just not teams, they're programs year to year. They're always
always been there.
outstanding.
Yeah.
They're always outstanding. They're always big. They're always physical. They're always well coached. Always do a great job in all 3 phases of the game. So I was just extremely proud of our players. They played 3 4-quarter football games there that were extremely physical. And again, you want to win them all. You want to win all the close ones, but 3 close games, and we won 2 of them. And again, we're real excited of where we're at and where we're headed for the rest of the
Yeah,
season.
because your schedule looks good for the. I think you played your hardest one so far, except for Kearney. Kearney's
Well,
going to be tough.
and we get a chance. We got some outstanding.
The Papillion's
teams,
getting better, yeah.
Outstanding teams. We got Lincoln Southwest, Papillion.
How are they this year? I haven't
Gretna.
seen them play. Lincoln Southwest. How are they? Because that's your next opponent.
Yeah. So Southwest, big physical team. A lot of kind of move tight end on offense. 3-4, 3-3-5 stack. A lot of stemming and moving and attacking
around
on defense. So looked like an excellent, well coached team.
Yeah, they do a nice job there.
Papillion, Coach Williams does
He's
a great
done it,
job
yes.
there. Gretna, I know they have an outstanding young quarterback, receiver. They can really throw the ball. They're off to a great start, scoring a lot of points. And we've got Bell East, we've got Kearney, who again, great program, always year out, year in, year out.
You got to go there. You got to come
and
here.
then Lincoln Southeast.
Where do you got Kearney at?
Kearney comes to our place. We went out there last year for the first round of the playoffs there, and so it'll be exciting too to play Lincoln Southeast. That's my wife's alma mater. My wife Reagan, and so she's a
How are
Lincoln
they this
Southeast grad, outstanding. They're doing a great job there. She's Southeast grad and then went to Nebraska Wesleyan too. So we definitely got some.
That's where the producer went to.
Okay,
He's a Nebraska
all right,
Wesleyan grad.
very good. Yeah.
So tell me now. I was just looking at the schedule. I thought, I think you guys have a great chance to finish out strong. I really do. Just if you stay healthy, and how is your health going and all that?
Right. We're sitting pretty good from a health standpoint.
That's
here,
good, because that's a big key you worry about when you're making a
right,
run.
We're getting some guys back, and again, we're just I'm definitely Mr. Cliche in terms of that. Hey, we want to get the importance of practice, and then just I kind of tell our players, hey, there's never just anything. There's never just a walkthrough or just a Tuesday practice on there. That all the practices are important.
Yeah.
All the games extremely important. So we just always have our focus 100% on whatever team we're playing, because again, the moment that you let your guard down is the moment that you get taken out. So I think that's getting back to that. Talking about that the mindset of this year's team and the mindset of our past teams too, of this, with that realization that hey, you need to bring it every week. Otherwise, right, that you're not going to like the outcome. And so I think that's the thing of inconsistent practice. Again, I think if you practice consistently, you're going to play consistently on there. I'm sure it's the same thing when you think within your coaching career, some of those clunker performance that's there on a Friday or a Saturday. A lot of times you can see it coming by what happened on Tuesday. And again, that there's
same thing in the NFL.
Right,
they see it on Wednesday.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, so tell me about your offense, because you've scored a lot of points. I've watched Elkhorn South through the years, and you've always been very, very dynamic. How do you want to say, exciting and dynamic on offense?
Right. Well, I think that's the thing again of influences through the years of really just love studying the game, the history of the game, and I talked about Coach Fry over at Iowa, and he was a guy that was an innovator that was kind of throwing the ball in the Big Ten. When
he had the stand-up tight end, remember?
Yeah, had the stand-up tight ends and was willing to do some things that other people weren't. I always had a ton of respect for Coach Osborne. He had an offensive system. We talked about
big
Bill
system guy.
Walsh. I think Noel Mazzoni is a guy that I've studied a lot too in terms of protecting plays, having things fit together. So I think that's one of our things. Again, what we want to have a strong identity and we want to protect it. So again, in the throwing game, people, if we're going to throw 4 verticals. So right, we want to be able to throw verticals. We want to be able to protect.
That was one of my favorite plays.
People, when people try to take that away, want to have a competent screen game. Big believer in the RPOs, that being able to make advantage throws.
I think that's hard on defenses.
And when it all comes down to it, you need to be able to run the football.
Oh, yeah.
Even when
especially in say Nebraska,
does.
when it gets cold
right.
in wintertime, you got to be able.
And so I think that's the thing. I think that the RPOs really protect our run game. make it where the quarterback's only throwing it to a guy who's wide open, where it's an advantage throw. And then one of the key things in our program has been the Rhino formation, which is our short yardage.
Right.
We also use it as a field offense, and that's something I got from Coach Drennan back the first year we were together.
Yeah, he liked that. We use that at Dan, too.
And I said, Coach, I said, I don't care what the formation is, what the play is, what do you like most for short yardage? We've really hung our hat on Rhino. That's been great for us too, particularly being a spread offense. Of course, there isn't as much space once you get down, inside the 10-yard line. You need
there
to
is.
have
It's
some
short
answers.
field then.
And I think just from a mentality standpoint of that physicalness of that moving your opponent from point A to point B against his will. I think that's been a key thing for us. And Rhino is a strong part of our program's identity. I tell the kids, hey, when we go to Rhino, a lot of times, well, I guess there really aren't fans in the stands as much as there used to be, but I tell them, hey, nobody ever chants trips, or 2x2. They do chant Rhino. We got fans that love it and got their Rhino T-shirts. And so I know sometimes that people will look on there and be like, well, hey, I thought you guys are the Storm. Why do you have a Storm football and it's got a Rhino on there? Well, that's kind of part of that identity and kind of, I don't want to call it.
And you built that through the years too.
Mentality. Yeah, and I think it's all about finish. And I think a lot of times, hey, where do you define finish? Well, it's in the red zone. And so that's been a great part of our program. We've really hung our hat on.
I tell you, I've watched you. I've been at quite a few of your games going through the years when I was at Dan, and then also working in the sales area. And I've always come out and enjoyed what you did on offense.
Well,
You're
thanks.
exciting.
It's been a thing. It all starts up front with the O line that Coach.
You
Coach
can't.
Drennan
You
does
can't.
a great
Hey,
job there.
trust me, I'm an ex-lineman.
Yeah.
You got to have the hosses.
And Jacob Rapp, who was our quarterback coach for years, did a great job with our quarterback. Seth Kribalovic, always great, receiver blocking, and now that Brian Vance doing an outstanding job with our receivers now. So just really excited about the guys that we got on staff and all being on the same page and all working together to build something that's dynamic and has an identity. But again, it needs to be flexible, right? The competition's a moving target.
Yeah.
You need to adjust from year to year, because again, people are going to figure out how to break what you do well, and you need to have that next step.
And I think the other thing you do a nice job finishing up here is I've always noticed you do a nice job fitting what you have in your personnel, both sides of the ball.
Right.
And there's something a kid can't do, I've seen you adjust and do things that fit the young man or fit what you have talent-wise that
I
year.
think particularly with quarterback, the way I put it there is we can adjust our offense to anybody except a bad decision maker. So, again, if it's a bad decision, because everything's going to throw through him.
That don't work good no matter what you do.
If he's a bad decision maker, we got to find somebody else. But whether he's a strong runner, strong passer, combo, the guy is obviously when you got a guy that can do both. When you got a guy that can run,
But you don't always get that because you don't know what's
and
coming.
can
I mean,
think,
because you're not out recruiting.
Right. And so on there, that's a thing. I feel like we can adapt from year to year.
And that's something I've noticed you do done very well.
Thank you.
Well, you know how we finish this up, don't you?
No, I don't.
You know, as a pro wrestler, right?
Oh, okay.
We got to finish up the old hush. I used to have this kid might come out, and I always wanted food or money, not necessarily in that order. And I'd always come out hush with my hand out, all right? And I'd do it through Japan or wherever. I used to chase them through the because they want you to go in the crowd in Japan, so I used to chase the people. They'd run all over and get out of their chairs. Can't do that in America. You get in trouble. But you can do that here. Over there, they love it. They think I'm Godzilla or something. Anyway, on three. Ready? Good luck to you this week, Coach. It's a pleasure having you, and wish you well the rest of the year.
Well, Bill, thanks a ton for having me on here. This is great, and it's great being here at the Sideline Power Studios, and you guys put on a great clinic, and it's really all I appreciate you guys do for the game of football, not only in Nebraska but nationally. So thank you.
And I appreciate everything that that you've brought to Nebraska football here
Thanks.
in the last
Thank you.
few years. I wish you continue success.
Well, thank you. Thanks very much.
Ready? On to 1, 2, 3. Hush, 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 hush. See you next week.